Okay, thank you very much and welcome back to MITV Plus. It's an express breakfast show, so I will serve you in batches. I'm sure you got the news earlier today, so we've got the newspapers to review for you. And while the ADC was celebrating, the PDP was not having the same. As two court judgment expected yesterday, one went temporarily in favor of the ADC, and of course, the PDP seems to have a partially collapsed faction right now. So let's go through the pages of the newspapers. I will begin this morning from the most widely read newspaper, according to The Punch. And it says, Mayday, NLC, TUC lament rising insecurity and poverty. That was why in my introduction, I decided to specially pay, ultimate respect to the Nigerian workforce. All through what segment, every section of the economy, it's been, chaotic, a very chaotic journey in the past years, and not just this administration. It's been a long time coming. Issues around minimum wage, issues around our workers' welfare, always at the front burner on the 1st of May. I remember growing up, it was always something to look forward to at the march past, at the stadiums, at the celebration. More importantly, the fact that it will be a no-school day the 1st of May. But a lot has changed lately, especially on issues around the welfare of the people, how they are being treated, even after giving 35 meritorious years of their lives into the service. You still see them protesting, you still see pensioners protesting. It's a journey that is no longer exciting. It's a journey that is no longer inviting. People don't want to get up into the system anymore because they ask themselves, when I give 35 years of my life and I retire, how much struggle do I need to put in to get my pensions? How consistent rather will my gratuities be? It's a whole lot. And so when you see the NLC and the TUC lamenting rising insecurity, poverty, struggles to survive, then you know that it's a tough one. So again, we celebrate you. Happy Workers' Day to the Nigerian workers. Of course, it's a global practice, but we want to celebrate our own more than anything else. Well, Mark-led ADC survives as Supreme Court voids Ibadan PDP convention. PDP thrown into fresh uncertainty as scams clash over verdicts. ADC celebrate lifeline, renews pressure to remove INEC boss. Wow. Airlines struggle as losses hit 150 billion naira in 2 months. So that is much on the Punch newspaper. Let's rush through the Guardian. Guardian is giving us a little more in terms of stories and pictures. The top left corner of Guardian is saying, INEC affirms exclusive rights to declare poll results as CSOs deploys tracker. Again, INEC affirms exclusive rights to declare poll results as CSO deploys tracker. That story is on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. FEC approves $2.9 billion rail project from Lagos to Kano to Kaduna. The Federal Executive Council approves $2.9 billion for rail project for Lagos, Kaduna, and Kano. Page 3 of the Guardian is also reporting that story. Respect Electoral Act, shift primaries to September. Hashim tells Tinubu and INEC. All of these stories are on page 3 of the Guardian newspaper. Of course, the major headline, clarity, uncertainty as Supreme Court reshapes opposition ahead of 2027. That is on page 6, the big story for the Guardian this morning. With a picture of the Supreme Court judge and then the leaders of the opposition parties in Nigeria, Senator David Mark, the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, and of course, the governor of Oyo State, His Excellency Governor Seyi Makinde. The pictures are boldly posted on the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Well, Sanu Nasu embarks on indefinite strike today. Sanu is the senior staff senior staff union of Nigerian universities, and of course, NASU is a non-academic staff union, are embarking on indefinite strike today. What are they asking for? You find out on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. And right under that story, Boko Haram threatens to execute 416 captives. Boko Haram threatens to execute 416 captives. That is on page 4 of the Guardian. Still on the Guardian, there is a picture of the Minister of Health. Niger local government records 2 polio cases at Katsina's decries gaps in vaccination. This is disturbing because I remember a couple of years back, Nigeria celebrated a polio-free certification. So I'm surprised that states and local governments in Nigeria are still talking of vaccines. They're still talking about poor vaccination process. They're still talking about terrible storages for vaccines. And more importantly, they're still reporting fresh cases of polio. I'm sure the Ministry of Health would definitely act on this as quick as possible. Well, there is also the picture of the chairman of the Nigerian Labour Congress, and he's talking. Worsening cost of living crisis overshadows May Day despite minimum wage increase. Worsening cost of living crisis overshadows May Day celebration despite wage increase. I'm trying to understand. Wage increase, the last minimum wage that was pegged at 70,000. What has changed? What was the cost of petrol when that minimum wage agreement was reached? After so many months of back and forth and debates and arguments and inconsistency and commitment and lack of commitment from everyone, what has changed? Well, Nigerian workers are struggling. Every single Nigerian out there is trying to put the life together. So when the entire world is celebrating International Workers' Day, you should ask yourself, what do we have to celebrate in this part of the world? Beyond converging at different stadiums across the state and wearing uniforms to represent the affiliate member unions, what else do we celebrate on Workers' Day? There's no point celebrating when the welfare of the workers are not prioritized, when workers are getting abducted, workers are struggling to even through. It's a tough one. And the leadership of the Nigerian Labour Congress is asking questions. Worsening cost of living crisis overshadows May Day despite wage increase. That is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Okay. 2 more stories, then we'll leave Guardian, we'll go to The Nation. Federal government resolves MM2 concession dispute, approves aircraft leasing firm. That is on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. And finally on Guardian, federal government begins 18-month database modernization ahead of census. Still on page 8 of the Guardian newspaper. You know, I'm super interested in when Nigeria will be ready to have our next national census. The last we had was about 20 years ago. And I understand how data works, especially in a third world country like Nigeria, where it is very important to have constant reviews of performance, especially on budget and fiscal policies. And so I'm always wondering, how do we reach our agreement when we've not had a proper national headcount in almost 20 years? So people come up with policies and they say Lagos should be 30 million. Kano is about 35 million, and Jigawa is between 6 to 9 million, because there are projections. And you ask yourself, how many are we in Lagos, to be sincere with ourselves? Go across all the local governments in Kano, how many people are in Kano? Oyo State, with 33 local government, how many people are in Oyo State? So there's no nation that would survive when you don't have a proper database to make plans, to review policies, and to check performances. So I think Nigeria understand what is at stake here. We are due for a census. The last we had gave Kano 13 million, Lagos 11 million, Ekiti about 3.2 million, Akwa Ibom less than 3 million. And I'm asking, 20 years after, with so much uncontrolled population explosion, go to those states and find out what the numbers are saying. So the federal government is putting up an 18-month database modernization ahead of the census. We're supposed to have it towards the end of the administration of late President Muhammadu Buhari, but monies were approved, but there was no census because of the election. Well, we keep our fingers crossed. Let's look at what the nation is saying. And don't forget, we have the big stories and the big conversation much later after the newspaper review that we're having at the moment. The Nation newspaper, well, the workers of Ekiti seems to be enjoying the moment with the governor, His Excellency Governor Biodun Yebanji. Remember, there are all circle elections in Ekiti and Osho this year. So I'm sure the workers are, getting ready for that election. But there's a picture on the front page of Nation newspaper, and the governor of Ekiti State, His Excellency Biodun Yebanji, addressing the workers and labor leaders at the government house during a walk in support of the governor's re-election, tagged Walk for Bow. Okay, organized by the Nigeria Labour Congress in Ado Ekiti yesterday. That's why I said maybe some states are enjoying. Because if we are lamenting and decrying the welfare condition of the Nigerian people, especially the Nigerian workforce, and then, some of them feel like, let us celebrate our governor, perhaps. They are really getting it good in Ekiti. Let's look at the stories. Yuguda joins Gombe governor race, vows to sustain Inua Yaya's legacy, backs Tinubu's second term ambition. That story is on the center spread of Nation newspaper, so you can pick a copy for yourself and join the conversation. Okay. To River States, Fubara, Ize-Iyamu, others pick forms as form collection extended. That is the second time journey for the embattled governor of River State. Federal government okayed 7 trillion for road, bridge, and other projects. You want to get a full picture of how many roads and bridges would be constructed with 7 trillion naira. Pick a copy of the Nation and check page 4. Perhaps your local government or your state is going to be captured in those developmental projects. Well, the front page is giving us a screaming headline, as repeated by the other 2 newspapers we've gone through this morning. Supreme Court sent Mark led ADC National Working Committee back to the High Court. So when I said the celebration is temporary, I wasn't making mistakes, because the Supreme Court judgment did not actually throw the case out. It only talked about the fact that the appellate court does not have the jurisdiction to raise issues on that particular matter. So the celebration is temporary, but for now, INEC would have to recognize again the leadership of the former president of the Nigerian Senate, distinguished Senator David Mark, the former governor of Osun State, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, and a host others. So the Supreme Court has sent David Mark-led ADC National Working Committee back to the High Courts. Okay. Still on the Nation, 11 discos to refund 55.4 billion metering loan. Shutdown of Egbin plants, worsen outages. I was watching a report earlier. It wasn't a report, like an interview, but a special interview actually. And then the person was talking about developing countries, the developed countries, underdeveloped countries. And it says Nigeria falls into the 3 categories, that we are underdeveloped, we are developing, we are non-developed. And, I wasn't really comfortable with some of the indices that was brought up, but he made a very clear statement that if you want to know where you are as a nation, you should ask yourself with your power situation, if you are still begging your government to give you electricity, not even constant, not even 24 hours now, stable, even if it's 5 hours a day, that is how backward a nation can be. So in the last 20 years, we've had issues around our power generation, power distribution, the national grid. And the truth is that we have every single thing in the world to probably be the most power stable country. We have all the resources we can use to generate it. We have the gas, we have the weather, we have everything. But we have a country that is struggling to the point that it has to introduce classism into democracy, bringing in band A, band B, band whatever, in a commodity that is supposed to be available for all, irrespective of your social class, irrespective of where you stay. Whether you stay in Abakaliki, in Ebonyi, you stay in Tunu-Wada, in Kano, you stay anywhere in Nigeria, as long as you're a law-abiding citizen, you should have electricity. For a country that needs the small-scale businesses to stimulate its growth, the employers of 5s and 10s, you should never have to grapple with poor electricity. And that's what we're dealing with in this country. So if you want to know where we are as a nation, check our electricity situation. It's really bad. So 11 discos took loans for meter and they would have to refund it. 55.4 billion naira. Okay. Let's also look at the rider to the earlier story. Order stopping ESCO has been vacated. That is on the Supreme Court judgment on the ADC NWC. So the Apex Court upholds the nullification of PDP Ibadan convention. Remember, there was a convention in Ibadan, the capital of Oyo State, on the 15th and 16th of November 2025. The one Wike called a Jamboree convention. Well, the Supreme Court has said that the decision of the appeal court to nullify the convention stands. So as it is right now, the faction loyal to the Oyo State governor, and of course led by Turaki SAN, is nullified as it stands. So the PDP today is not even factional anymore because there are two factions, one loyal to Wike and the other one loyal to Seyi Makinde. The one loyal to Wike for now has been nullified. What will be the next plan? Will they align with the main one, or they will shift base and join the coalition, the ADC? In the past few months, they've been hobnobbing with the ADC. The leadership of the ADC have at different times met Seyi Makinde, met Turaki, all of them. So maybe this Supreme Court judgment will finally nail the coffin or what used to be Africa's largest political party, a party that went into Nigeria's 2007 election with about 31 governors. How many governors does the PDP have today? 1.5. So let me explain why I say 1.5. One, Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, and the other one, Governor Bala Mohammed of Bauchi State, is neither here nor there. Today is meeting with the APC, tomorrow is meeting with Labour Party, next up is meeting with Peter Obi, and the next thing you see him is meeting with the leadership of the ADC. So when I say 1.5, it looks like Governor Bala Mohammed, the only non-APC governor in the 19 northern state, by the way, may just be on his way out of the PDP as well. Okay. Still on the Nation newspaper, inside stories. INEC restores mark orders on portal. Wike, no more faction in PDP. No complacency, says Atiku. You want to check all of these stories? Check the page 7 of the Nation newspaper. Atiku picks Tegbe Babalola for power sector as INEC fixes June 20 for by-election in 6 states. Okay, so a new minister of power has been nominated after the former minister of power resigned to contest for the governorship seat of Oyo State. So an Ibadan man has replaced another Ibadan man. Well, if you know, Mr. Tegbe was at some point a governorship aspirant on the platform of the APC in Oyo State. He's currently held different political positions, different economic reforms position, and he's been nominated as the new Minister of Power. That is going to be dependent on the screening and approval by the Nigerian Senate. So let's see how it goes. It looks like the people of Oyo State are getting it good with the power sector reforms under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But the question is this: a state that produced or will have produced back-to-back Minister of Power, what is the power situation in that state? Let's start from there. Well, the former Minister of Power will be aspiring to be the governor. And if I were to be a voter in Oyo State, I would just sit back and say, why are you a Minister of Power? What did you do? Okay. Let's look at what the Nigerian Tribune is reporting. Ambode backs Hamzat as Lagos APC candidate as Jandor withdraws from the race. Page 20 of Nigerian Tribune is reporting that story. And also on the top right corner of the Nigerian Tribune, Tinubu nominates Tegbe as Minister of Power, appoints Lanre Babalola as Special Advisor on Power. Okay. Bridge linking Kwara and Oyo collapses. That is page 30 of the Nigerian Tribune. Still on the Nigerian Tribune, Supreme Court nullifies PDP Ibadan convention, void status quo antebellum order on the ADC. What that means is that David Mark and his leadership has been restored temporarily, and they've been sent back again to the appeal court. Returns leadership dispute for trial at the High Court, as Vabara-led BOT says it has assumed leadership of the PDP. Supreme Court confirms PDP's unity, end factional crisis. Who is saying that? I checked page 17 and 19 of the Nigerian Tribune. Well, the same picture of the Ekiti State Governor, His Excellency Abiodun Oyebanji, addressing the workers and labor leaders at the governor's office during a walk in support of the governor's re-election tagged Walk for BAO. BAO is Biodun Oyebanji, yes, organized by the Nigerian Labour Congress in Ado Ekiti. On Thursday, Ekiti workers staged a thank you walk for Oyebanji's second term. I shall respond to distractors on the 20th of June. Well, the governorship election in Ekiti is coming up next month. Yes, today is 1st of May. So on the 20th of June, the people of Ekiti will go back to the polls. Unfortunately, the PDP may not be fielding a candidate in that state because the faction that conducted the primaries that produced the PDP governorship candidate in the state has been nullified. So it could just be a one-way traffic for Governor Biodun Oyebanji. Okay, still on the Nigerian Tribune, OPay expands access to 1.2 billion naira 10-year scholarship program, signs MOU with more schools. UBA pushes deeper bank fintech collaboration at the Pan-African Conference. I checked that out on page 16. Okay. Rethink labor welfare strategy, CPPE urges government. That is on page 16 of the Nigerian Tribune. Women mega rally signal movement for participation to power. That is the minister is talking. Which of the ministers? Check page 4 of the Nigerian Tribune. Women mega rally signal movement for participation to power. Interesting one right there. Why the ADC Accord, Zenith Labour Party, Action Alliance, APP should be deregistered. Attorney General of the Federation tells the court. Okay. Page 18 of the Nigerian Tribune. That is a big story, by the way. In 2019, we went into that election with about 79 political parties or thereabouts. In 2003, it reduced. Some were deregistered, some were delisted, some didn't produce or present a presidential candidate for that election. And now we have about 20 political parties in Nigeria at the moment. And the Attorney General of the Federation is telling the court to deregister the ADC, the Accord Party, the Zenith Labour Party, the Action Alliance, the APP, that's Action People's Party, should be deregistered. Find out on page 18 why the AGF is telling the courts. And finally, on the Nigerian Tribune, NNPC completes $700 million OB3 gas pipeline River Niger crossing, designed to transport up to 2 billion standard cubic feet of gas per day. That is on page 16 also of the Nigerian Tribune. Okay, we have a few more newspaper headlines to take for you today. And let's touch down on the Vanguard. An LCCI tax federal government on weak budget execution and delay in fund release. That is the Lagos State Chambers of Commerce and Industry. I think that's about the most active LCCI that we have in Nigeria as we speak. And they are taxing the government on weak budget execution and delays in fund release. Lagos 2027, 120 APC leaders signed Hamzat's governorship nomination form. Interesting right there. 120 APC leaders signed Hamzat's governorship nomination form. Interesting. It's been a wave of endorsements from the current deputy governor of Lagos State, Dr. Hamzat. And of course, a lot of people have attributed such an endorsement to his loyalty to the party, his consistency within the corridors of power, and more importantly, they call him the man with the waiting game skills. He's been there, stepped down for 2 different governors, served as a deputy or serving as a deputy to one. And now, it started off with the Speaker of the Lagos State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Mudashiru Obasa, endorsing Dr. Bafemi Hamzat. Then I think that was followed by the former Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives and now the Chief of Staff to the President, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila. And there was also the endorsement from the GAC, the Governor's Advisory Council. That is the biggest policy-making bloc in Lagos. And of course, the sitting governor, Governor Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, also endorsed his deputy to succeed him. And that's the first time that we're having a direct transition from a governor to a deputy governor. So Hamzat will probably be first of many in Lagos. He's also going to be the oldest man to govern Lagos. He's currently 61, and by the time he gets on the ballot and contests the election, he'll probably be 62 years old. So Lagos is experiencing a shift. There are a lot of things that have never happened in Lagos before. Lagos have never had the former governor go to the Senate. Lagos have never ever had a deputy succeed his principal. If you go back memory lane from 1999 till now. So Hamzat, maybe not a breath of fresh air as such, but it's also becoming a first of many. Let's keep our fingers, because the opposition in Lagos have a lot of work to do if they want to unseat the APC in Lagos. But it looks like the APC are forming and closing ranks. But let's keep our fingers crossed. 120 APC leaders signs Hamzat's governorship nomination form. Tinubu mandates Gbajabiamila Masari to supervise APC National Assembly primaries. That's going to be interesting, by the way. This is a big responsibility for Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, but of course, I'm sure he can get the job done. The president has mandated himself, and of course, one of the closest allies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Aminu Bello Masari, to supervise the APC National Assembly primaries. OPE signs new MOUs with 4 more schools, expand access to 1.2 billion naira 10-year scholarship program. That is a good one right there. There's a picture at the top end of the Vanguard newspaper. It's a lengthy one. And let's go to the main story. Supreme Court OK's ADC's mark axes PDP's Turaki. Page 5 is reporting that. Vacate order against Mark-led ADC returns case to the High Court. INEC recognizes the Mark-led ADC leadership, voids PDP's Ibadan convention that produced Turaki, who studied the judgment on ADC and act. INEC is responding to that. Ruling leaves PDP without clear leadership, according to the Turaki group. No more factions in PDP. That is the factional leader of the PDP saying no more factions. The ADC would appeal the ruling blocking INEC's recognition of the Congress, David Mark. Why INEC should deregister ADC, APP, and 3 others. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice is telling the courts. Okay. The First Lady is also in the news. Remi Tinubu rolls out 1.2 billion naira, 100 trucks of rice for vulnerable northern families. As workers made day in pains as labor decries insecurity, poverty, and inflation. Obi to Tinubu, borrowing for consumption is a killer cancer. Okay. And of course, Governor Agbukefas of Taraba State receiving award from Dr. Peter Mba, the governor of Enugu State, at the Vanguard Personality of the Year Awards in Personality of the Year Awards 2025 in Lagos last week. So it's a case of a governor awarding another governor. Interesting right there. So let's run through the pages of The Sun as we pull down the curtain on today's edition of newspaper reviews. Well, the big story: Courts gives Mark-led ADC NWC lifeline, settles PDP's case. That is the Supreme Court right there, and that is being reported on Daily Sun. Borrowing for consumption is cankerous. That is coming from Peter Obi. Calls for accountability, transparency in public borrowing. Well, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has said that borrowing is not leprosy, but his administration must commit to effectively using the loans borrowed so that those loans can be paid back. Okay? Let's see what the other headlines are saying. Motorists groan as petrol price nears 1,400 naira per litre. With the rider, marketers, refiners seek urgent palliative. The Supreme Court gives Mark-led ADC NWC lifeline, settles PDP's case, overrules appeal court, all factions to return to the High Court, sacks the PDP-led Turaki. Okay. 1992 set of the House of Representatives and 7 senators. Chief Whip of the Senate, Tahir Munguno, Borno State Midu, Chairman, Senate Committee on Southeast Development Commission, SCDC, Orji Uzor Kalu, Abia North Right, and Deputy Senate Minority Leader, Larry Oyewumi from Osun West. All of those guys, okay, let's leave that. FCT Minister Nyesom Wike second left exchanging pleasantries with the FCT Council of Chiefs after confirming with chieftaincy title Asken Abuja, the light of Abuja. And that is the new chieftaincy title that the former governor of Rivers State and current FCT minister had been bestowed. Asken Abuja, which means the light of Abuja. Okay. So maybe you add chief in front of Wike's name now. Labour marks May Day as federal government declares the holidays. Page 26 of the Daily Sun is reporting that story. Angola Rukuba killing. Security tightens as suspect appears in court. Plead not guilty. Remanded in DSS custody. Case adjourned till 8th of May. Varsity brace up for disruption as SANU NASU begin strike. As SANU is the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian University, NASU is the non-academic staff union, and both of them had embarked on a strike. Don't repeat 2023 election mistake, Wike tells Abuja monarchs, seeks support for Aduda. I knew this was coming. You know, in case you don't know, Senator Philip Aduda is being referred to as the Abuja landlord. So because of the unique status of Abuja, they have only one senator. And that senator, right from as far back as I remember, had always been Senator Philip Aduda, a close friend and ally of the FCT minister, Bryce Nyesom Wike. And so there's been a long-running political battle between the current senator from Abuja, Senator Ereti Kingibe, that was voted on the platform of the Labour, but she's moved to the ADC. And at different times, the FCT minister said, you will not return to the Senate. I bet you on that. They've been across each other's neck for as far back as Wike had been made the FCT minister. So now Wike is seeking support for Philip Aduda to return to the Senate. I think he represented Abuja from, I think 2003 to 2015 or 2007, I think 2003, 2015. He was the senator representing the FCT in the Nigerian Senate. Now his friend has been made the minister of FCT and is rallying support to return Philip Aduda to the Senate. You know, in the course of the week, I got involved in a political conversation, and the questions around the longevity or the terms of lawmakers was being discussed. If the governors are limited to just 2 terms in office, if the president is limited to 2 terms in office, local government chairman the same, why should we have senators spending 18 years, 20 years in the Senate? Why should we have reps members spending 15 years, 20 years in the House? Those were the issues that was discussed. Does longevity relate to performance? That is a question I'm going to leave you with on the newspaper review segment of the show this morning. We'll take a very short break. When we come back, we're going to a major discussion on the show today. And I tell you, it is going to be less of me and more of you. We'll open the phone lines and you join the conversation. Stay with us. You're live on MITV plus Breakfast Express, the first edition for the show for the month of May. And once again, happy Workers' Day.
Well, I have a feeling things are about to change.
The new season of the hit series Wura is coming to Africa Magic.
You don't say.
Here's everything you need to know about the woman behind the name to get ready.
This is well.
Wura is the ruthless CEO of Frontline Gold Mine.
We're going to build our paradise here on earth.
She'll do anything to maintain her power and perfect image. Lies, fraud, and of course, murder.
Let the dead state hit her.
Many try to take her down, but she always claws her way back to the top.
I have a plan.
That is, until she discovers that the last person she murdered is her own abandoned daughter. The once unbreakable Wura begins to fall apart, and her empire of gold crumbles around her. But she would rather die than have the world discover who she truly is. Catch Wura Season 4 on Africa Magic Showcase and available to all on Africa Magic Family.